I think that beauty is important because we notice the spiritual void that comes with sameness. My friend Shrine, who taught me about trash art, he talks about his work being like against the cult of sameness. And that's kind of what I was just talking about in regards to getting items secondhand, or like taking care of things, you know, fixing up an old quilt that you bought for $5 at the thrift store instead of spending $100 at Target to buy a new quilt. And so it's like the personality and life that objects have in and of themselves, and how we as individuals can add our own life to the objects that exist. And so I think the process of bringing beauty and art into the world, it also, the reason why I think it's spiritual is because you're adding energy. When Meow Wolf approached me, I've been working with them for 3 years doing different projects like parties and costumes. They've hired me for all different things. But then in October 2019, when they approached me about doing a permanent installation, I put out 2 different ideas. I was like, I could make this thing that's all made out of materials that would have otherwise gone to the landfill, or I could do this like fabric installation that would be like soft sculptures and quilts, and like it would be more dealing with like garment waste in the textile industry. So both of them would have been made out of, you know, waste or like leftovers. You know, I would have been like, hey, everybody, go through your closet, give me all your old socks and underwear and pants and shirts that have holes in them. And I would have cut everything apart and like made this whole, you know, installation about using textile waste. But I ended up doing the one that was more using like food and beverage waste and like technology. And so the whole room is made out of mostly like food and beverage packaging. So like jar lids, like there's a lot of like round, colorful things. And then also like someone donated their MacBook Pro and like keyboards and like all different kinds of like e-waste and CDs and bottle caps. And so all these different materials that are really cool and colorful and abundant, and things that I found in the dumpster or on the ground, or I had people save them for me, or I had friends and fans all over the country, like through my Instagram. I was like, hey guys, these are the things I need. Do you have these things? And then people would like ship me stuff, and I would, you know, organize it all. And we made this whole installation out of it. And yeah, there was some paint involved, but as an artist, I'm also trying to use the least amount of toxic materials possible. And so all the paint that we used was donated paint that people were like, oh yeah, I have some leftover paint, whatever. But the whole thing was super colorful. And so to me, it didn't really matter what colors I got, because it was all going to be very layered anyway. And so much trash, like CDs are shiny and bottle caps and lids are like cool colors. And so I tried to do as much color as I possibly could with the least amount of paint. Art is for everybody. Our ancestors created beautiful homes, beautiful clothing by hand, beautiful implements, jewelry, everything. And they made it all themselves for themselves. And it was all based in community. And so how do we get back to any kind of feeling of community in this very separatist, individualist, digitized technosphere, you know, and then add the pandemic on top of it, where people aren't even interacting in real life. And so the reason that I'm participating in this little event that my friend put together is because I'm like, yeah, people are going fucking crazy. And they're in their homes and they're not making art, and they're bored and they're isolated, and they're just connecting only through the digital world, which is extremely unfulfilling. And so it's like, well, what can we do that's free and open to the public, and also isn't, you know, institutionalized, I'll say, through grants and funding, and, you know, yeah, just institutionalized by who says what art is. It's like art is people making stuff. And so it's really just trying to get people to, you know, emerge from this like COVID hole of like despair and digitization, and be like, oh yeah, life is beautiful. Things can happen. Like real people are out there. And so, yeah, by having these more like free, public, open, all ages experiences, it encourages all people to be like, well, I could make art. Yeah, I want to do something. I want to come like add on to this, or I know how to sing, or I know, you know what I mean? It just makes it way more accessible for everybody. And that levels the playing field, because it's not about prestige. It's not about Instagram followers. It's not about your CV and like you being endorsed by some la la la. And so I think that that is really what we need more of, because everybody is suffering under these systems, and everybody suffers from a lack of beauty, but also everyone has something to contribute. But it's about giving them tools and resources to empower them to be like, hey, you could just make art. Like, it doesn't have to be worth money. It doesn't even have to interface with money. It can just be for fun. Yeah. Can beauty save the world? Well, I think that, as I was talking about earlier in regards to outsider artists and different people that just feel compelled to make art and to create beauty and to change their environment, it's changing them. And it's like, the world doesn't change unless people change. And so a lot of times in my work about zero waste and stuff like that, people are like, well, the corporations need to change. It's not the people's fault. You can't blame the people for litter. You have to blame the corporations. I'm like, I'm sorry, who runs the corporations? People. So we have to change ourselves, and we have to change the way that we all relate to the world, to environment, to business, as you're saying. And I think that appreciating and valuing beauty, because beauty is not efficient. And right now, in a capitalist patriarchal society, everything is focused on the bottom line. It's focused on efficiency. It's not focused on, well, what feels good? Like, what makes me feel good in my soul? What makes my community feel good? What is just a more pleasurable way to go about this? Because ultimately, we're all just grains of sand in this, void. And so nothing really matters. So why are we going so fast? Like, I remember when I first moved to New Orleans, there was a band that was called Why Are We Building Such a Big Ship? And I think about that all the time. It's just like, guys, why are we even going so fast? Like, what is even the point? Like, if we're not doing it in a beautiful way, like, we're speeding to what finish line? And so I think that beauty can save the world, because it's what makes life worth living. And the more that we can be beautiful in the way that we live, the way that we treat our bodies, the way that we treat each other, the way that we treat our environment, the way that we interact with public space, like, we can't expect the government to do shit for us. We can't expect the city planners to get it right. We can't rely on other people to do anything. And it's like, if you want to see more flowers, if you like community gardens, work on it. If you want your house to be more unique, do it. Because it's like, unless people buck the system, then the HOA generic cookie cutter crap is going to keep going on. But whenever you do see people that disrupt that, the people that I'm talking about, the outsider artists, or just, anyone that's like, yeah, I'm going to put a bunch of decorations up, I'm going to paint my house crazy, I'm going to plant a garden. People actually love that. And so, the more people that do it, the more beauty that exists in the world, because we create a new culture that sees value in those kind of things, instead of sees value in conformity and uniformity. If we can all start to act out more in creative, beautiful ways, that's going to inspire others to do the same. Because the more that you do it as an individual, everything that you do as an individual, that ripples out. And so me dressing up, looking the way I look, that inspires others to be like, yeah, I could look however I want to look too. Or me building a tiny house and making it really interesting, that makes others be like, yeah, I could decorate my house, or I could use these trash materials, or I could go to architectural salvage places and like use what already exists. And so just through amplifying our own individual self-expression, that helps others do the same. And then it ripples out for everyone to benefit from.